Digital splendor. Literature illuminated.
Today, we're going to try and crack one of the oldest mysteries there is, the dream. Specifically, before Sigmund Freud came along, what did science actually think was happening when we closed our eyes at night? It was, well, a complete puzzle, and Freud was the detective who was determined to solve it.
Oh, you have. We all have. You're flying over your childhood neighborhood, but it's made of cheese, and for some reason, your third-grade teacher is there giving you stock tips. It feels completely absurd, right? Well, for the longest time, that's exactly what science thought it was. Just pure, random absurdity. I love this quote from the scientist Ratastock because it just perfectly captures that pre-Freudian view. The general thinking was that dreams were nothing more than chaotic, random firings of a sleeping brain. Just a mad play with no rules, no logic, and definitely no meaning. Think of it like the mental version of static on an old TV screen. But then, right at the turn of the 20th century, one man looked at all of this so-called mad play and saw something completely different. Sigmund Freud didn't see chaos. He saw a hidden language, a secret code. He was convinced that even the most bizarre, nonsensical dream actually had a purpose and a structure. But look, to really get what Freud accomplished, we have to understand the case he was trying to crack. So for the rest of this explainer, we're going to become the detectives. We're going to examine the baffling clues and the contradictory evidence that made up the science of dreams before he came along. Okay, let's open our first case file. This one gets right to the heart of the matter with a really fundamental question. What is the relationship between our dreams and our actual waking lives? And on this, scientists were totally divided. On one side, you had this idea that dreams are just a continuation of waking life. As one thinker, Ma Grenet, put it, we dream of what we have seen, said, desired, or done. It's basically just the day's leftovers, reheated. But then on the other hand, the actual feeling of dreaming is like a total escape, isn't it? It feels like we've gone to another world with its own crazy rules. And this gets to the central paradox. A researcher named Hildebrandt said dreams feel hermetically sealed up from our real lives. He told this story about a man who dreamed of selling wine to Napoleon. Now, in his waking life, this guy had never been a merchant, he'd never even been to sea, and he actually hated Napoleon. So the dream felt completely alien to him. And yet, and this is the key, every single piece of that dream, the wine, the boat, Napoleon himself, had to be borrowed from his real-life knowledge. So how can a dream be totally separate from reality, but also 100% dependent on it? It was a massive contradiction. All right, let's move on to our second case file, which adds this whole other layer of weirdness, the very strange behavior of memory inside our dreams. So get this. This story from the scientist Delberth is just incredible. He dreams about this plant and its very specific, very technical Latin name, a name he is absolutely certain he has never heard in his life. It's a complete mystery to him. Then, 16 years later, he's looking through a friend's old plant album and bam, there it is, the name, Asplenium written in his own handwriting. Turns out he'd helped his friend label the plants 2 years before the dream and had totally, utterly forgotten about it. His dream remembered something his conscious mind had completely erased. And this is the paradox of dream memory. On one hand, you have this thing called hypermnesia, this almost superhuman ability for dreams to recall forgotten information or to reconstruct scenes from your deep childhood with perfect clarity. But on the other hand, dreams will obsess over the most trivial, insignificant things, like a wart on a stranger's face, while completely ignoring major life events. So the memory in our dreams is both superhuman and kind of petty. It was just another unsolved clue. Okay, on to our third and final case file for now. If dreams are this weird and unpredictable, then what's actually causing them? What's the spark that lights the fuse every single night? Well, science had rounded up 4 usual suspects. First, you had external stimuli, a car horn outside, the cat jumping on the bed. Second, internal sensory stimuli, those weird light patterns you see behind your eyelids. Third, internal bodily stimuli, things like a stomachache, a fever, a racing heart. And then finally, the least popular suspect of all, purely psychic stimuli, just our thoughts, our worries, our interests. Now, the most convincing evidence pointed to external triggers, and there's no better example than this famous dream from a guy named Maury. He dreams this incredibly long, detailed story about being arrested during the French Revolution, he's put on trial, he's led to the guillotine, he feels the cold blade fall on his neck, and wakes up in a total panic. And what caused it? the top of his bedpost had fallen and hit him right on the neck. His mind had somehow created that entire complex story in the split second before he woke up, all just to explain that one physical sensation. Wild, right? The idea of bodily triggers was also super popular, especially with doctors. They really believed our organs were talking to us in our sleep. They came up with theories that say a heart condition might trigger short, terrifying dreams about death, while a problem with your lungs might show up as dreams of suffocating or, weirdly, flying. The body was basically seen as the puppet master, pulling all the strings of our dream theater. And this is really the crucial point here. Scientists were pretty comfortable with physical triggers, things you could touch or hear or measure in the body. But that fourth suspect, psychic stimuli, was almost completely ignored. The idea that a dream could just appear from a thought, a memory, or an unfulfilled wish with no physical trigger at all? To most scientists, that sounded unscientific, almost mystical. So where does all this leave our investigation? Well, pretty much with an unsolved case. The mystery of the dream remained wide open, full of contradictions and a whole lot of dead ends. I mean, seriously, after centuries of observation and theories, what did the scientific world really know for sure about dreams? The frustrating answer was not a whole lot. They basically had a collection of really fascinating puzzles, but no coherent picture to put them all together. So these were the major unsolved clues left on the evidence board. The pure, unadulterated absurdity of it all. The superhuman memory, that hypermnesia, the bizarre focus on trivial, worthless details, and that incredible instant story creation, like in the guillotine dream. But you see, science didn't see these as clues to some deeper meaning. They saw them as proof that dreams were just a fundamentally broken, meaningless process. And then this happened. In the introduction to his huge book, Freud made a claim that was, frankly, revolutionary. He promised he would prove that a method existed to interpret any dream, and that with this method, every single dream, no matter how silly or absurd, would be revealed as a meaningful psychological creation. He was basically saying, it's not chaos, people, it's a code. And that leads us to the final thought, right? By just completely rejecting the idea that dreams are nothing but mad play, Freud opened up this entirely new way of understanding the human mind. He forced us all to ask a question that science before him had pretty much dismissed as impossible. If every single dream has a meaning, then what are yours trying to tell you?